Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 155th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this week we're going to talk all about amazing playgrounds. Let me elaborate a little bit. What do I mean? So, you know how when you go on these adventures with your family and it's a long road trip and everyone starts to get a little angsty and you're looking for a rest stop? Well, my suggestion, skip the rest stop and instead have a play stop. Now, what if your kids aren't super young, right? Because on average, playgrounds are designed for 5 to 12 years old, right? Like we know most of them are. Your kids may be a little younger, they may be older. So you can modify this, to fit what is best for your family. But I'm going to gear this towards families that have elementary and middle school aged kids. But some of these playgrounds are going to be for all ages. So keep that in mind too. And maybe then if it's an adult trip, maybe what you want to do then is you want to stop at a park instead of a playground. Somewhere you can walk, stretch your legs, and not just be stuck in a car all day. Because that's the thing about long car rides. Sometimes we get so focused, and I'm guilty of this too, because you have an itinerary, you know where you're wanting to go, and you're so excited to get there, you just want to hurry up and get there. But I believe in stopping along the way and enjoying it a little bit as well, because it makes it easier for everybody. So if the kids have been eating a little bit too much sugar, snacking, and you're like, they've got some excess energy, you want to arrive still enjoying being around your family. So then I have found letting them release some steam is a great idea. So when my oldest son, London, who is now a teenager, was a toddler, I started really caring about finding interesting parks and playgrounds along the way while we were traveling. When it was just my husband and I, this was not a priority. We were like, we could drive through, we could get there. But over the years, London and now Christian have explored playgrounds in, I would say, almost every state we have visited. And we haven't been to all 50 yet, but we're making our way through them. Some have been elaborate and worth a longer detour, while others quickly served a purpose just to let them run off some steam. Most playgrounds, like I said, are designed with the ages of 5 to 12 in mind, so it's a little difficult when you have kids that are spread out over multiple ages. If they're around the same age, it's not as difficult, but now we have a teenager and an 8-year-old. So we're constantly looking for playgrounds that are not just geared towards the littles, but are going to have things that are teenager friendly, right? That are going to have more obstacles for climbing, natural based, playgrounds, things with a little bit of a danger element in that it's not just a slide that you go up a couple of feet. Like it's going to have to be something interesting like a zip line. London will ride one of the zip lines all day long, and so will Christian. So something with some interesting features, because I'm trying to accommodate and make it interesting for both of them. So it's a new kind of challenge. I'm going to share some of our favorite playgrounds we have explored over the years and some others that are on our list that we haven't been to yet. Okay, one that we have been to most recently when we went to Charleston in March. So here's one of my suggestions. You don't have to plan a trip around a playground, right? Like I'm not asking you to do that or even suggesting you do that. Instead, I'm suggesting wherever you are already going, just look to see what's around there. You may be surprised, because that's what happened when we went to Charleston. It was not my plan to take my boys families to the world's largest inclusive playground. Wasn't on my agenda, right? Wasn't on the itinerary. But that's what we did because I'm like, oh, let's find a really cool park. Because if we drive by a playground, Christian's going to notice it and he's going to say, I want to go there. I want to go there. And so I thought, well, let me just see, because here's the thing. Not all of the really cool playgrounds, in fact, most of them are you going to just drive by, but you could be within 10 minutes and not even know it. So it's amazing now. I think about this all the time. The way we travel now is not the way I traveled when I was younger. Like when I was younger, my parents never pre-booked where we stayed, right? We just showed up wherever we wanted to go and found an open hotel and would just drive around looking at the rates on the signs until we found one that my dad was like, okay, we can stop at this one. I pre-book everything. That's part of what my career is. I book things in advance. So I also then plan a lot of the restaurants, activities, all the things that we're going to do, I have on a list, but I try to make space for new things and for things that I, not to overplan to the point where I can't add anything once I get there. So that's what happened. We went to Charleston. I was like, okay, is there a really good local playground? And I found this place called Park Circle. It's in North Charleston, and it just had a $20 million transformation. This is a park for all ages. And when I say it's all inclusive, they have made such an effort to make it possible for as many children and their families to be able to enjoy this playground. So it's accessible. There are things then that are going to appeal to all senses. And also, it's not just for one age. It's not just for the 5 to 12 age. There's another section of it that's more like a junior ninja warrior, but also adults could do it too. So then that way, if you have tweens or teens, along with your younger elementary school kids, they're going to have something that's interesting for them too. So if you're in Charleston, that's a must. Another one that we went to recently was called the Little Debbie Park, and it's in Collegedale, Tennessee, really close to Chattanooga. So we went and visited our best friends that live outside of Chattanooga. This had been on my list because it kept popping up on my Instagram reels as a suggested activity. And this is where Little Debbie Snack Cakes was originated from in this town. And so they have this beautiful new park and playground that has statues of 5 different Little Debbie snacks, from the, oatmeal cookies to the cosmic brownie and Nutter Butters. So there's some really fun things there. Was it a fudge rounds? But there's different things in that you can take pictures with and enjoy the playground as well. And a really big hill that kids love running up and down and also rolling down. So it not only has really cool playground equipment, but the park itself is really beautiful. Never would have found it because it is off the beaten path in a more residential area. So here's one that I recommend for younger kids. And I will say that it's one of my favorite playground memories in my entire, life as a mom, because it stands out to me. And this is not one that's right down the street, but this was in Porto, Portugal, when our family went for spring break, when the boys, I believe, were 2 and 6, I think. But it's called the Jardim de Moro. It is for little ones, and it is located right in the shadow of the famous bridge on the Douro River. And the bridge was designed by the same architect of the Eiffel Tower. So just imagine, like, if the Eiffel Tower were turned into a bridge, it would be this bridge in Portugal. And it was a small playground, but it was the setting. It looked like out of a fairy tale. Here's where the magic really happens. It's Europe, so it's a whole different lifestyle. Keep that in mind. But they had sangria carts alongside the playground for the adults. And so the playground was completely fenced in because you're by a river and it is downtown. But these sangrias were the largest sangrias I've seen. It's still the best sangria I think I've ever had to this day. And they were at the playground. So guess what? At sunset, all of the parents are here. They're letting the kids play for hours because they're enjoying the sunset. So you're in a beautiful setting. You can watch the birds flying in, the boats going by, river cruise boats are going by, sailboats, and then you have your sangria and your kids are playing at the playground. It is wonderful for everyone. I've not found a playground in the U.S. that has sangria carts beside it yet. If you know of one, please let me know and tag me in it because I'm going to put that on my itinerary for a future trip. Okay, going back to the U.S. now, Anakeesta. If you've been to Gatlinburg, you know what I'm talking about when I say Anakeesta. They have a brand new playground. I mean, it's a couple years old, but it feels brand new, called Bird Venture Playground. Great for all ages. We went when they had the smaller playground, and now they've added to it. So the next time we go, which is going to be later this year, that is definitely on our family's list. The Princess Diana Memorial Playground, going back across the pond again, that's in London. And we went last August, and I will say this was a must for me because it is only for ages 12 and under. And I told you that I now have a 13-year-old. He was 12 last year, even though he's the size of an adult. I was like, I'm going to this playground while both boys are 12 and under so they can experience it. It meant more to me, I know it did, than it did to London because when I spent a summer abroad in London and you couldn't even go to this playground without kids. Adults are only allowed to go like the 30 minutes or an hour before the park opens. Otherwise, kids are your ticket to get to go to the playground. And I remember thinking one day, if I have children, we're going to come back and we're going to this playground and they're going to play on the pirate ship. And it is like children's fairy tales come to life from Peter Pan and just beautiful stories. And it was magical for me. London and Christian may not even have hit their like most important moment, but they say a core memory day for me. All right, 2 places we haven't been yet that are on my list. I'm going to tell them to you very quickly before I give you one more really helpful hint how to find these playgrounds. 1, the Gathering Place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All I'm going to say is look it up. You're going to be blown away. It is on my list. I think I'm going to plan a trip just to Tulsa, Oklahoma to make sure that we go to the Gathering Place. And then the other one, which I had not even heard of, and this is the number 1. Gathering Place is number 2 in the country in top playgrounds. But number 1 is in Cary, North Carolina, and it's called The Nest at downtown Cary Park. So that's on my list now. And before I started researching for this to try to get some other suggestions and ideas, I had not even heard of that. So I love this. I find something new every day that I want to go. So my bucket list is constantly growing. All right, last thing I'm going to share with you this week. How do you find some of these playgrounds, right? We go by word of mouth or recommended. You can Google, of course, but there are 2 apps, and it's called the Playground Finder app. So that's what you want to use, a Playground Finder app. And here's the 2, Playground Buddy and Play Scout. Those are the 2 apps. So if you didn't want to download the app, you can go to playgroundbuddy.com. If you're wanting something besides a playground and you want a park, so think this is for adults, or if you have teens and you're wanting, okay, I don't need a playground, but I would like a green space, that can be findyourpark.com. So those are 3 options for you. But I will include those also in our notes because if you're traveling wherever this summer, this fall, your next big road trip, and you're thinking, we could stop at that rest stop. We could stop at this gas station, stretch our legs. Why don't you make it a more memorable experience and stop at a playground? And not just any playground, but get reviews about which ones are going to be the best based on your kids' ages, their likes, what are their favorite features of a playground. And it could be a really fun thing to add on to your travel days. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Life is a great adventure. Whether you're going near or far, make those memories with your family because life is short. Take the trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.